Welcome, fight fans, to the Pugilist Place. I'm Lawrence Mejia. I'm so very lucky to be here today with undefeated junior featherweight prospect, Rudy Garcia. Rudy, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. How are you?
Thank you so much. I always like to ask this fighters that I get the privilege of speaking with around this time of year. What's the expiration date on saying Happy New Year to somebody?
That's a funny question. I was just thinking about that actually. Give me a second. I have a pop-up here. I was just thinking about the same thing while I was at work 2 days ago, and I thought to myself, like, you know what? When is the cutoff day? When is the expiration day? And I'm like, you know what? Within like, for me, within a day is fine. You know, like just the first day, New Year, and then the second, and that's it. Is the cutoff day. You know, it should be no more. You
So,
know,
so you're a minimalist.
yeah, it's basically, unless it's a family member that you haven't seen in a while, and you see them and they're like, oh, Feliz Año Nuevo or Happy New Year's, So yeah.
So we just seen you not too long ago. I think it was like 2 weeks ago and I'm going to ask you a few questions about this. You were in this really great fight with Victor Morales Jr. And, it was a battle, but I don't recall seeing you get anything on the forehead. Now I'm talking to you right now and I see this Band-Aid. Well, what's going on with the Band-Aid on your forehead?
Well, on New Year's Eve, we went out to the desert right in Baker, borderline California and Vegas. And my stepdad, he has this nice Sandro, with a very big engine, it's practically a car on the sand. And we were gonna lose the pack of guys that we had with us to get back to our campsite. And so we tried to go in a hurry. And throughout that time, I'm fighting with my seatbelt. So these seatbelts are very intricate, if you will. They have these buckles because these cars are very fast. And if it's a regular seatbelt, you probably fly out of the car if you do flip over, which happens a lot with these Can-Ams and Sunros. So he takes off trying to catch up to them, but he doesn't ask me if I have my seatbelt on. So we're smashing through these dunes and bumping. I'm like, oh man, and in my mind I'm like, man, I'm gonna, excuse my language, I'm gonna eat shit very bad. And sure enough, man, we go to this little dune and we just go, he slows down at the very end and we just go like this and we do the arch, right? And we just go bam, head first, and then the car just goes back. So within that time, with that moment, that split second, my knees hit the rail in front of me, and then the I guess my knees kind of saved me, because if not, I would have went flying through the windshield, I guess, or whatever. But I hit the rail, and my head hits the rail. So when I come back, and I come back to it because I kind of knocked myself out for a little bit, or the car, I guess, if you would say, right. And I feel the warmth of the blood coming down, like, and I fought, so I know what getting cut feels like. So it just feels exactly like that. And I'm like, oh man, don't tell me I'm cut. And I look, and sure enough, just blood all over my face. And and I've been cut, like I said. So as I get back to the camp and everybody's freaking out, and they're like, oh my God, what happened? Like, guys, don't worry about it. And I've had worse. I have my eyebrow just hanging from my from my eye not too long ago, 2 weeks ago, I think it was, right. And so I wasn't really scared about it, but everybody else was. So I guess that's a story to tell to my new coming daughter, pretty soon. So
Right, we
uh,
buckle up. We don't want to see you derail your very promising future career.
Right now, yeah, I got to be a lot more careful.
So you would just reference this a couple weeks ago, or I mentioned it a few moments ago. You were in an action-packed great fight with Victor Morales Jr. Victor Morales Jr. is a highly touted prospect from Golden Boy. Actually, Golden Boy just voted him their 2021 prospect of the year. You were in this amazing fight with them, and it resulted in a split draw. So if you can, and also a little bit more about Victor Morales. He's a national champion multiple times over as an amateur. So if you can, take us back to that night a couple of weeks ago and assess your performance in that fight.
Well, first off, to I guess in a way I had to assess Victor Morales' style and his skills. The guy has talent, right? But I don't think he's all that, to be honest. And I've been in the ring with him, as you can see. Now, the first 4 rounds, my thing is, when I'm fighting, is I try to break my opponents down. Even if I'm not going to hurt them, I try to mentally get in their head, you know. And if they can't touch me, what I've noticed, unless it's another guy like me, I guess you can say, that has that warrior mentality, I think a lot of these fighters, they kind of wind down. And I've seen in his record how he's used to knocking these people out in the first couple rounds, right? That isn't a lot of time to get the experience that you need, at least in my book, right? And I can see why my manager and my team took this, this fight, because I feel like they felt that I know that they knew that I wasn't gonna win, because I felt I won, right? That's another another topic, but I felt that I won, but um I was able to break him down, and by the fourth round, his mind and his face was just very lost. And so when I see that, and I've seen that multiple times in my career, because I that's what I like to do. I like to mentally defeat my opponents. I seen his face completely lost, and he didn't know what to do. And his corner kept shouting out things that he could do, but it wasn't. He didn't know how to take or put that punch into effect. So throughout this fight, um, I felt that I did control this fight, and it was he was a tough guy. I'm not gonna lie. He does, like I said, he has skill, but he's a tough guy. But it wasn't that much of a tough fight for me until that fifth round. It kind of turned things around a little bit, but it's because I think he got his courage up a little bit. So mhm.
So I'm clear. So do you feel like maybe he's a little bit overrated?
Yes, I do.
And as you mentioned before, you feel like you clearly won that fight.
Yes, I sure do.
And so when you're looking back, it's like a tale of two fights. Like the first half of the fight, your speed was giving him problems. You were
Right.
getting through his defenses quite often. And
Right.
then he caught you with that overhand right in the fifth. How hurt were you from that overhand right?
Um, it was just a quick flash, to be honest. And see, in my amateur career, I've been hurt like that before, so it was nothing new. I myself have I think it was a two-time national champion myself. I fought in the Mexican team, the international Mexican team, traveling to Puerto Rico to go fight out there. I think honestly, when they took this fight, I don't think they thought it was going to be a tough fight. But I was hurt like the first couple seconds that he landed that shot, because he is a little strong. But as you can see in the fight in that round, that I came back right away to not let him know that I was that hurt, or hurt at all, or anything. I didn't want any. That's the job of the fighter, right? To have a poker face and make sure that you're not discovered if you are hurt. But I came back right away, and I at the most, I to be nice, I would give him that round, the fifth and the sixth. But to be honest, I wasn't super hurt to where if he followed up, I was gonna get knocked out or stopped or anything like that.
And it was on a fairly big platform, being the main event of the Facebook watch of the undercard for the Zerto fight. Um, did you feel like, so the folks who were calling the fight, they kind of painted it like it was a turning point. Did you feel like that fifth round was a turning point in the fight?
If I wouldn't have adjusted to how he started to feel, because like I said, it gave him a little bit of a confidence so that he could come forward. If I wouldn't have adjusted the way I felt that I adjusted, I think it would have been a turn. Well, it was a turning point. Let's just say it was, because it kind of was, right. It in the viewer's eyes, it was a turning point. But the odds shifted back into my favor. I would like to think on the eighth, ninth, and 10th, because the seventh round I was readjusting against him, and like I said, being nice, I think I would have given him 2 rounds, fifth and sixth, because he was working off of that momentum. But like I said, seventh we started going at it again. I like to feel. Then the eighth and the ninth and the 10th, especially with that body shot that I gave him, that I think that sealed it, and then it affected him into the 10th round, because his rate of fire was not coming the same way it was since the beginning. As it was already, I had already studied him, and he's not too he doesn't follow up on his punches. I was banking on that, and it worked.
And this was a fight too where it looked like you and your team were really trying to raise your profile. Were you successful in doing that?
Um, yeah, somewhat. I recently took an Uber, and the Uber driver knew who I was. He's like, hey, I just saw you fight. And then he's like, what? This is crazy. He started tripping out. And I've had some people, contact me like, hey, I just recently saw you fight. I didn't know, whatever. And so I guess it did somewhat, not a big margin from where it was, but I mean, any growing fan base is nice. It always feels good because your work is being noticed, and that's
You're
always what I've wanted. My work to be noticed, my work to be noticed. You're not just only working for yourself, you're working for your family, but which is the main key, or more important thing to be focused on. But every once in a while, it feels good for your work to be noticed.
and you're not one to shy away from like more challenging fights. You a few fights back, you challenged Rafael Gramayo, who was a West Side Boxing Golden Boy fighter. So you're not one, you're undefeated, but you're not scared to put that O on the line. Uh,
No.
so the feedback good. My follow up was going to be too. So what has your feedback been from like family, friends, and the boxing media? What have you kind of felt back from how they've seen that fight?
Well, a lot of people have told me the same thing. It's like I'll give them two tops 3 rounds, because I see how that seventh round, I rewatched that fight a bunch of times trying to figure out how the judges got a draw. But this is boxing, it is what it is. But they've been, my families and friends and my whole community they've been telling me, what, I thought you won that fight. Will they keep asking me, will there be a rematch? And I'm like, you know, it would be cool. It would be nice if the fans want it, because I'm the type. See, I'm a very old school. I like to think I'm an old school soul. Um, the reason why like how you notice that I'm not one to shy away from a challenge is because I would like to be that bit of boxing that brings back old school boxing. The times of Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler, those guys never ran away or shied away from a challenge, and it brought the best of boxing. That's why those years were the years of the golden years of boxing. So if I could be part of that, or even bring it back just slightly, it's already a win-win for me. Even if, God forbid, I I were to lose, but if I give it out there and go out there and give it all my heart, and people enjoy my work, and like I said, notice my work, it's already a win-win for me.
Right, and you know what, I like think losses are so overstated. I know there's so much value attached to them, but there's tons of fighters who, if they fight a good fight and they fight the best and they happen to take an L, it raises their profile. Sean Porter is one. He's, like, universally looked at, hey, he fought everybody, he's beloved for that, for putting
Exactly.
on great performances. Like, kind of like a modern day example. So you mentioned the rematch. Is that something you really want to do, or you're not sure if it just
Oh no,
happened?
yeah, it's definitely it would make me feel better about the fight. I know that my team, they want the best fights, and they want I know it sounds a little selfish, but at the end of the day, I do have a family. And if the reward is a little bit higher, or if it's even the belt again, I would gladly go for it. I would gladly go for it. But like in this fight, the odds were against me, man. Like, it's crazy. I noticed it's I was B side. It's which is fine. I've been the B side. It's nothing new to me. But the way you're little treated just slightly little, it's the way you looked at, it's like, and even the referee, so he was on more on top of me than what he was on Victor. I don't blame Victor for it, because it's out of his control. He's just a fighter, just like I am. But you just treat it a little bit different. But I would like to fight Victor again. It would be I would think a very good fight again, and it would only, for me, it would only demonstrate to me, or it would allow me to demonstrate that I did beat him the first time, if it does happen again.
How would you approach that rematch differently?
Mm, there's a lot of key things that like me and my coach, or my dad, we talked about it, and he tells me, you know what? He's like, you really wanted this, and I can see that. And I'm like, yes, I did. This could have changed my career entirely. It would have just been a complete turnover. Um, he's all like, I noticed that, and he's all like, and because of that, you seem very anxious, and you were just in there, and those four first rounds, they were beautiful. But I feel that that because of that, you dropped your guard, and you got too comfortable, and and you got caught, So there's a lot of things we had to fix there. And my performance, I made that fight harder than what it should have been. So a lot of it, obviously, it is the fighter's fault when something bad happens, or So I think that yeah, I hope it does happen, this whole thing again.
And in that fight, you showed a lot of skill. You showed a lot of grit and determination. You turned pro in 2016. What was your amateur career like?
I had 156 amateur fights and 20 lost, and 5 of those were at the beginning of my amateur career, and that's how my dad started training me. He saw that my old coach wasn't really investing his time, and my dad tried to turn pro around that time too, but he had work and stuff, and so then he just like, you know what, I'm just gonna stop boxing and I'm gonna train you, and that's what happened. And so, like I said before, I got to travel a lot with the national team, and I even think I remember Victor from the amateurs. I remember seeing him around, and I remember him advancing to the nationals and this and that. So I know that he came from a good pedigree and he knew what he was doing. But like I said, I just think he's overhyped. But my amateur career, yeah, it is pretty extensive because I tried to wait for the Olympics, try to make it to the Olympics, but I fought Chris Colbert, Chris Colbert, yeah,
Right.
which I would love to fight that gentleman again sometime because of that. I just something that I got to get off my to-do list, in boxing. He's a good fighter himself, good amateur pedigree. But even that fight in the finals, when I got to the I had got to the finals in the US men's nationals to make it to the qualifiers to uh I'm sorry, not the qualifiers, the Olympic trials, because we fought in the Olympic qualifiers. I made it all the way to the finals, and it was the finals, and I lost in the finals. I was this close to making it to the trials, and I thought they had done me so dirty, whatever. Which is every fighter, right? Who knows? I don't know. It's a lot of politics in it, and but what counts is what's on the paper, right? So it's a loss, and I lost that fight. So if there's a possibility ever, I would like to fight that gentleman, but I fought in 2 more U.S. nationals, men's nationals, and after that, I just got tired of it. It was the amateurs, and and because of how things are awesome in the amateur boxing world, it's nothing new or a secret, to people that are in boxing. They know what I'm talking about. But my amateur career, it was very fun. I enjoyed my amateur career. I traveled a lot. I have none to complain about. And the people in Mexico, they took me in. I was actually on the team with Sulem Urbina
Wow.
when she was there too. So I got to see her compete too. I actually got dropped in that fight in Puerto Rico over there by a Puerto Rican fighter, and it was just like. But the thing is that I was sick during that fight, during that tournament. So I went over there, and my dad even asked me, like, "You sure you want to do this? Because you're pretty sick and you're not gonna look with your best." Like, you know what? Like, who's gonna take the experience away from me though? I need this experience. So I went out there, and like always trying to accept challenges. And I challenged myself, and it just didn't go as planned, which I kind of expected it, but it was good. After that, I decided to turn pro.
Wow. And extensive is right. You fought a lot as an amateur, and you said you were a two-time national champion for Mexico.
No, and one in Mexico and one over here in the United States.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So we are in this weird place, right? So we're going into the third year of this pandemic, and like even you look at like the NFL, like they still are evolving and trying to deal with the coronavirus and variants and stuff.
Right.
You fought 3 times during the pandemic so far. How hard has it been to get fights
It's
during the
been
pandemic?
really, really hard, man. It's crazy. Um, you get ready for the fight. Before the pandemic hit, I was getting ready to fight in what's that? Some venue in Hollywood for Golden Boy. It was gonna be on the zone. I was gonna fight another undefeated fighter. I think he was fighting for Mayweather's team, promotional. I don't know exactly who it was. I was so excited for this fight, like, this is another step, another good, good fight. Is I can potentially capitalize off of this and grow my followers. And I was so excited, and I was only 2 pounds away, and it was 5 days away from the fight, from weigh-ins actually. And then and then I wake up in the morning, mouth all dry, hungry, like, all right, only 4 more days now. I turn on my notifications, because that's basically how every fighter now is business, social media is a fighter's business. So now I'm looking down and I scrolling to see anything new, maybe any potential, uh, business, gainings. So I'm looking, and then I see my manager. No, I think it was Golden Boy. Golden Boy's page. It said fight canceled, due to rising numbers in coronavirus. And I was like, no, don't fucking tell me. This is my language. No, don't tell me. Like I was hungry. So because the first thing when I read cancel is like food. So then what I do is I hit up my manager and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And then he tells me, he's like, yeah, you know what, I think it's been canceled, but let me do some digging and see what happens. And yeah, sure enough, they've canceled that fight. Then a week later they started canceling the some fights for I think what is it, in the OC hangar, they started canceling those, and then so on and so forth, and canceled. And they, before you know it, they canceled the whole year's schedule of fights. And then I'm like, man, what the hell is going on? So yeah, that got me really pissed off, and it got me frustrated. And then fast forward to a little bit now, and I fought, and like I had to go to Mexico to fight, in TJ. Then I came back, and then I was like, I don't want to fight in TJ, because you come back more broke than going, than anything, because you had to spend on expenses, you had to, food, you had to pay for your, your opponent, stuff like that. So, it was horrible, man, and it just really really sucked. It sucked fighting during the pandemic. Then the second one, I luckily I got the opportunity to fight here in the U.S. Somewhat limited because of numbers and mask everywhere or whatever. So I said, okay, fine. At least I'm getting something, some type of payment, and I don't have to waste money. Yeah, even though I had to waste money for the trunks and stuff, but I have sponsors for that. Luckily, I have a great team. Luckily, and then this fight, things were opening up again. So I'm like, man, okay, hopefully I get a big, big crowd. I'm just gonna put on my show and I'm just gonna leave it out there in the ring. Whatever happens, happens. This is not nothing new to me, but I was pretty nervous, because it was the pandemic, and it's and we're still kind of into it, and now looks like we're gonna go back into it again almost because of the Omicron variant. But at this point, I'm just really fed up with this coronavirus bullcrap, man. I'm just so tired of it, and I have my views on it, but that's another conversation. It's just tedious to get through that, because you have your daily problems, like your families and stuff like that, and then I got my baby coming on along, so I'm like, man, I'm in a hurry to get this show on the road, because the pandemic took already like a year and a half of my career away. That's basically what happened. And it took away not just me from any other fighter, Victor Morales too, I'm sure he slowed down. I looked at his record before I fought him, and he slowed down too, because obviously the same years, as a pandemic shutdowns, it just affected every fighter that I know, so it's just luckily, God, have he somehow helped me keep my mind sane, because I was going insane already, and a lot of that had to do with work too. I have a very good support system at work. They work on my schedule, and they're just awesome people. LAX shooting range, they're just great.
So you mentioned that you're expecting a baby soon, correct?
Yes,
Is this your first child?
the first child.
Well, for congratulations.
Thank you.
How far away?
She's actually, this is like the last 2 weeks, I think, is what the doctor said.
Wow. So
My girl's ready to pop already.
so right around the corner. My question to you is, so you're in a very dangerous sport, and it's one thing if something happens to you, but now that you're introducing this this new human being into living that's going to be very dependent upon you. How do you think being a father is going to change your approach to boxing?
I already noticed it to this fight. I pushed myself harder than what I usually do. I felt it myself. Like I found myself thinking about my daughter and my girlfriend a lot during this camp when I was running out at Mount Baldy. You're up there 5,000 feet in elevation. It's hard to breathe, but somehow this little idea of a small human being depending on you, and you yourself, everybody's had that experience of being a child. It's like, damn, okay, well, I'm gonna look to my dad. And so then I'm like, oh man, okay, everything's for her. Everything is for her. This is what I just kept telling myself over again in camp. Everything's for her. And even during the fight, like, damn, I cannot. After I got hurt, it's the first thing that came into my head. So it's matured me a lot. And it's crazy how a son or uh, kids in general can change your mind and or mature you real fast.
It's powerful. Yeah. And
So,
once again, congratulations to you and your girlfriend. Your dad trains you, but he also trains Diego Pacheco, correct?
correct.
So Diego Pacheco is somebody that he's signed by Matchroom Boxing. You're a little bit older than him.
Yeah.
So you have a couple years on him as far as starting your professional career. What are
Right.
some bits of advice that you've given him as he starts his journey into professional boxing?
When I started, so when I had my first six fights, we went to all of them. He was there, which is cool. It's we're pretty cool. It's a very good professional friendship. I give him I find myself, or I would find myself giving him advice, or we'll just talk like, damn, it's crazy how when you're in the middle of the fight and something bugs, but you just gotta fight through it, or just find that get past that mental block, or just little stuff like that, or even strategies. Because I like to think I'm very strategic when it comes to fighting. But I like to read a lot of history books and stuff like that. So, with that being said, I have always told them, uh, don't rest on your laurels, or don't get stuck on your laurels. Do you know what that means?
Yeah. Just to not be complacent.
Yeah,
Always
exactly.
try more.
Yeah, so in the Roman times, ancient Rome, the centurions would wear laurels, right? Not just the centurions, but the upper class commanding officers and generals and emperors. And I told them, don't get stuck on your laurels, don't get complacent um, with where you're at. Always reach forward. I think as a fighter, you have to you're a student, no matter how old you are. And I'm pretty sure Mayweather probably feels the same, and that's why he always stayed on top of everyone, because with every fight he learns something new, and there's always something to take out of every fight. Nitpick what you want. Including yourself. You're gonna learn a lot about yourself. Okay, under this situation, what am I gonna do, or how do I react, and stuff like that. But that's the advice that I would tell them all the time. Don't ever get stuck on your laurels and what you have accomplished. There's always more. There's always more to what you've already accomplished, and I think that's what makes human beings human beings. We want to achieve more. We always want more.
And you guys are doing a really good job of both representing South Central LA, where you're both from,
Yes.
making them proud out there. We also seen you when you went into the ring. You were repping Marv Nation pretty hard. And for those that don't know, Marv Nation is a LA-based promotional outfit. They've hosted fight cards all over the Western Hemisphere. What's your relationship with Marv Nation?
So my dad, he currently he's working with them, or has worked with them. I'm not sure. I think, yeah, he still is working with them now. So he helps them get the fights together sometimes, and stuff like that. Um, and so thanks to them, they gave me the opportunity to actually fight my last fight in their one of their cards. And it kept me active, a little bit. You would say a tune-up fight, even though I don't believe in the term tune-up fight, because any fighter, as long as he has two hands, he's a danger to you, and you have to be able to neutralize that threat. But they held me with this fight, with that fight, to get a fight, because it was tough to get a fight with anyone, anywhere. And Golden Boy, he started, they're already they already have their roster of fighters that they want to fight next, and so on and so forth. Um, so they helped me get my fight, and thanks to them, I got some grease into my joints, and was able to shake off any rust that I have. But other than that, yeah, that's all and they're a sponsor, a very big sponsor. They supported me before they've they had asked my dad about me. But my dad is all like, we're gonna work with them. It's they're trying to help you out. So, um, and they're gonna be your sponsors also. When he first told me, like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's like they want to support you. So, um, we're gonna put their logo on your trunks. So I always like to say that I'd like to extend my hand to somebody who has extended their hand to me, and they extended their hand to me. So I guess in a way it's a win-win. It's we're helping each other out. Even though they probably don't need to, help promoting themselves because they are pretty big, I guess, in LA now. So or they're still starting out, but they have a pretty good name for themselves now. So they're helping me out more than I guess you can say that I helped them out.
Yeah, putting on fight cards, making boxing fans happy, from Pico Rivera
Right.
to Pomona. So yeah, that's very cool. But yeah, we noticed that, and so I was wondering what that relationship is. So you fight out of the junior featherweight division, and that's a stacked division. There are a lot of stacked divisions, but 122 is very stacked. What's your dream fight at 122?
Well, I actually fight at 126. I was fighting at 122, but I can no longer do 122. So
Oh,
this fight with Victor was at 126. 126. Everybody from 122 has moved up to 126, so it is a stat card. Navarrete is there, I think he is. Ray Vargas just went up there. Any of those two fights, would be tremendous for me. It'd be awesome to fight because I think especially one with Manuel Navarrete, he seems to be a very all around wise fighter in general, ringmanship, everything. Ring IQ. He boxes and he knows how to push forward and put pressure. Ray Vargas is a very good pot shot type of fighter. He takes pot shots, very smart. Anything what attracts me is anything that'll make a great fight, a great headline, people to be like, oh man, these guys are machines when they're in the ring, and and I like to pride myself on my conditioning. My conditioning is always at 100% when I fight, and I think a fight like that can generate a lot of fans, and it's just the possibilities are just great, so that's what I just think about. And so those two fighters are one of the two fighters that I would like to fight at that weight division, but there are up and coming prospects that would be interesting too.
right. And they're all of the established champions. You have up and coming
Yeah.
fighters. It's just loaded, and they all kind of bounce around from going up and down too.
Right.
So are you a New Year's resolution kind of guy?
Um, I think excuse my language, I think it's a load of bullshit when it comes to that, It's I'm not that type of person. I think you have to try to be better every day. Every morning that you wake up, you have to try to be better than you were yesterday. Because like they say, you're the only person that you have to be better than, you know, and you have to continue to strive forward and I don't know if you know who Jordan Peterson is. But Jordan Peterson,
No.
he's actually just went viral, but um he is a psychologist. He has a doctorate in psychology, and he kind of is more like an empowerment type of guy in his TED talks and his interviews. He always talks about how one should be a better. How can you make yourself of service to your people? And I think that includes being better as a person every single day. So New Year's resolution, you're just stopping your potential, because he talks about potential. Potential, you don't know what it is. How do you know what a potential is? You can't see it, you can't grab it, but it's looking forward to the future every day and trying to be a better person. And I think that's what potential is, potentially being your better self, and not holding back. Because if you say, oh, my New Year's resolution, that means you just held yourself back this whole year, you know to get better. So you just, it starts now, not next year. So
I like that.
yeah.
Every day is
Of
another
course.
opportunity to be better.
Yes. Yes.
They used to say, I think it was the University of Oregon a couple years ago had this like this motto, like win the day, like go out, defeat the day, be the
Oh
best
yeah,
in
yeah,
that day.
yeah.
Uh,
Kind of a reference to what is was it Robin? What's his name? The guy that did Flubber? No, was it Flubber? No,
Rob-
Jumanji.
Rob-
What's his name? Jumanji.
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams. He says in one of his movies, I think it's called The Death Post Society. It's just, seize the day, right? You win the day, seize the day.
Carpe diem.
Carpe diem.
You're really enlightened, Rudy.
Right, seize the day. Make the most, and that could be from the smallest thing. Make the most out of the day that you can. Seize the day. Carpe diem.
Absolutely. And so looking forward as we're into a new year, what can we expect from you in 2022 inside the ring?
I'm trying to be a lot more. I want to be a lot more busy this. Trying to be more busy this year. Show my face a little more. Due to work. Sometimes it's like, oh, my dad he says, you got to show your face a lot more often in these fights. And there's fighters. I know there's fighters out there that they don't even follow boxing. They just do it because they like boxing, I guess. But they're not fans. And I'm a very big fan. I love dissecting fights. I even go back and watch old fights, and stuff like that. But to be more out there, even though I think it's starting to look like it's going to be a little difficult again with this whole again Omicron variant. But if there is a possibility of showing my face a lot more, and just being there whenever any fight happens, and of course being busy as in fighting, that's what I love to do. So it's what I hope to be doing most of this year. Hopefully, the plan is to try to get 3 fights at least this year. But if not, I'd be satisfied, or 2 should be sufficient. So, but for sure 2 fights at least this year, because I know that I know it's a little hard right now on everybody. It wasn't just hard on us fighters, but I'm sure it was very hard on the promoters too. Golden Boy, Matchroom, Top Rank, PBC. It was probably hard for them because they had to work around the schedule of this whole virus variant, whatever. So I just hope that everything turns out good for them too, because they lose just as much as we do. Maybe not in the same sense, but it's just in certain ways they lose out too. So I just hope everything turns out good.
Yeah, and you and I both, because the more boxing, the better, the more opportunities you have to get in the ring, the more your career develops. And so I wanted to thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I really genuinely appreciate it. I hope for all boxing fans out there that we get the chance to see you back in the ring with Victor Morales again, because that was just such a great fight. And we'd love to see it again. I'm sure many others would agree with me as well. Where can fight fans follow you on social media?
So on social media, I've yet to make a Twitter account, and I've just been lagging on doing that, but I don't have one. So people can follow me on Facebook is Rudy M Garcia, M as in Mike, and see on Instagram is El Tiburon _RG. So that's all my social media right now. So I do need to hop on that Twitter. I know it's a lot of people following there. So
Yes, please make a Twitter account. That's boxing Twitter. All these
yeah,
sports writers that are going to write about your career and stuff, that's where they're going to attach your articles and
right,
all that other good stuff. But
right.
thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Very
Um,
much. Yeah.
absolutely. Have a wonderful new year, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you soon when you're back in the ring again.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, take care, Rudy.
You too. Bye-bye.